we're going to move on now to the Indianapolis Colts, a team I cannot wait to break down. There is so much variability here with the 2023 Colts. Is Anthony Richardson going to start right away? If so, are they going to completely maximize his skill set? And my answer to both of those is yes and yes in my early projections. We will find out, of course, as training camp goes, but I love the setup. I couldn't picture a better landing spot for Anthony Richardson in terms of the right coaches, the guys that are going to mold an offense right to his strengths and really let him thrive. So let's dive on in to my Indianapolis projections. So Shane Steichen, he comes over as the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator, took over play calling duties for the Eagles over the last, towards the end of 2021 and then all of last year when they really took off. Shane Steichen was the play caller there. Ultimately, I think this is going to compare to 2 seasons ago when he took over the reins of the play calling duty, where it was 514 pass attempts, 561 rush attempts, a 48 to 52% ratio, right around league average in plays run. I think we can expect something similar. That was Jalen Hurts' first year, really as the full-time starter, and they took the training wheels off as the season went. They certainly let him run the entire time, but in terms as a passer, they were very conservative that first year. And I think we'll see something similar with Anthony Richardson coming in as such a raw player, somebody that has limitless ceiling. I cannot wait to talk about this kid. But I do think they will definitely take it slow, feature Jonathan Taylor, feature Richardson's legs as he continues to evolve into a better and better NFL passer. The early reports out of camp so far are that Anthony Richardson has been extremely impressive. He's blowing them away. Everyone talking about how raw he was going to be. The coach is saying, we're not seeing any of that right now. We love his leadership. We love how he's making all these short and intermediate throws. So maybe he's a better passer than he's getting credit for. There's definitely some red flags there. But as again, overall team, I expect more run attempts than pass attempts as they kind of protect him and he ages in. But let's talk about Richardson. Clearly, I'm projecting him to win the starting role and just thrive. And they've already talked about how that's a very real possibility. They're not one of those teams that are letting – and Gardner Minshew is very capable. So it's not a lock that Richardson does win it outright. If he's as raw as a lot of people were worried about, then maybe they do start with Minshew and he takes over half the year. That would definitely take a big stock out of Anthony Richardson as a redraft guy. Still one of the best draft upside quarterbacks in Dynasty. But this is projecting clearly that I think he is going to start the year. And I have him at 58% completion percentage. So let's talk about him as a player and his setup so far. Again, you couldn't be asked to be under better coaching staff. When Steichen took over last year, they ended up engineering the 3rd highest scoring offense, 27.2, and 3rd most yards in the NFL, 389.1, 5th in rushing, 9th in passing, 4th and 3rd down percentage. And then across the last 2 seasons, no team has rushed for more yards. So that's why I think they're going to be leaning in there. But definitely a bright mind. He was great for Jalen Hurts, who's behind only Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes across the last 2 seasons in points per game total, 23.5. Justin Herbert had his best year as a rookie, which typically is not true. When he threw for 31 passing touchdowns and 289 passing yards per game after missing the first 3 starts, they handed him the keys and he lit it up, averaging nearly 23 points per game, over 6 more points than he did last year. So he has been a QB whisperer, Steichen. He even had Phillip Rivers have a career renaissance in one of his last years there with the Chargers. And so I really like what he talks so much about is molding the game to the QB and how he was absolutely in love with the potential games he could craft with Anthony Richardson. There's so much that he quote brings to the table that we're so excited about, said Steichen after they drafted him. So I definitely really am a big fan of this landing spot and think it is a perfect spot for him to grow and learn and be utilized as clearly as a rusher. 158 carries, 790 and 11 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson's like a big, strong, faster Cam Newton. Like he's 6'4", 244, 4'4", 340. I mean, that's like a D-end, 40.5-inch vertical. Not that you need a vertical for a QB, but it just shows you that this guy is the highest ceiling prospect maybe to ever enter the NFL. Of course, the fact that he completed only 53.8% of his throws, it's a big concern because accuracy is obviously the way you last as an NFL QB. Being dynamic doesn't hurt, but if you're not accurate, you're not making those short to intermediate throws, you're not going to last long in the NFL. So he has to, of course, improve on that 53.8% completion percentage. Very volatile in terms of his decision-making. And there's a lot of rough edges here, but it sounds like they've been very smoothed out. And I didn't even mention Jim Bob Cooter, one of my favorite coordinators, rookie year Jared Goff, and so many guys. Stafford helped develop him. There's definitely a good track record with the coaching staff here. Trevor Lawrence, even in his rookie year, last year, he was part of the Doug Peterson, getting Trevor Lawrence's legs back under him. So definitely a really good quarterback whisperer in terms of Bob Cooter, in terms of Shane Steichen. Like, these are both great guys for him to learn under. So now how do I see that all shake out? So again, 158, 790, and 11. Like, that's the big thing at quarterback, because with only 16 touchdowns, that's how many we saw Jalen Hurts throw his first full year as a starter. That rushing stuff is going to be what really buoys. And that's really the only reason to draft him, is that Konami upside as a bigger, faster, stronger Cam Newton. So I don't expect a big aerial pie. I think that's really going to hurt. As you can see, these receivers, 21% target share only means 108 targets. And if the accuracy is as bad as they're saying, 56% catch rate, right around what Michael Pittman is anyways, it's worrisome. It's absolutely worrisome. So I put up the yards per reception, just given the cannon arm. You can really rope it deep, Anthony Richardson. So I think a lot of these guys will see spikes in how much production they do put up per catch, but their catch rates are going to go down. The overall volume is certainly going to go down. And so you can see here, none of these guys, particularly Pittman, who's going in around 5 or 6, I haven't tracked him in a single draft yet. 840 yards, 3 touchdowns, 60 catches. Yeah, that's a far cry of what he's become used to here. And he's been a volume monster, and he's really needed that volume to actually thrive. I just don't know that Michael Pittman's that great of a player. He's a good, solid number 2 receiver. I don't think he's a true anchor, and these kind of numbers bear that out. Alec Pierce, in fact, intrigues me a little bit more at the price tag, given that he goes around 12, 13. Michael Pittman going around 5 or 6. Give me the discounted guy that has that deep speed, especially in best ball, where I don't have to predict the boom weeks. I think him and Anthony Richardson really seems like a good skill set, schematic, a better souped-up Quez Watkins type of guy to stretch that field and make some great contested catches. Now, Reggie Wayne did say Josh Downs, the best receiver in this class, so maybe I am being a little light on having him only at 77 targets, 15% share. We could see that bump up, but he's hurt all camp, and I don't know. Reggie Wayne has his opinion, and certainly I trust him more than myself, but I also didn't love Josh Downs. I like him as a slot guy. I just don't know if that's really going to be where we see Richardson thrive and where we see Richardson used. So, 537 and a touchdown, just not that much I'm worried about. Behind him, not much. But Jelani Woods being rumored to be that Dallas Goedert type of role, which has been a staple of this Eagles offense. They love to get the guy running deep down the seams, also after the catch opportunities. And Jelani Woods is a good athlete. He certainly can bring a bunch to the table. So he's the quote unquote from the Indy Star is he's the most likely to take on that role. He's the only one that has shown the athleticism to stretch the field the way Goddard can. And this is a big body, 6'6". He can catch, go deep. He averaged 12.5 yards per reception and averaged at the target of 10.7. That's solid. Very, very solid for a tight end. So I could see Jelani Woods being a nice sleeper, but again, is there going to be enough aerial pie to feed him? But Dallas Goedert, 16% target share before A.J. Brown got there, and I see that kind of what this offense resembles. And it was mediocre. Devonta Smith, 20% target share, but still only put up 916 yards and a handful of touchdowns. So it's worrisome in that sense for the pass catchers. There's not a ton of guys I'm forcing out there. Even though I like Richardson as a fantasy player, it's really because of the legs. The main attraction here, though, and maybe I should have just kicked off with him, is Jonathan Taylor. Last year's unanimous number 1 pick in standard and often half PPR leagues. Really only Christian McCaffrey was a guy you'd consider in PPR above Taylor. And he really disappointed, unfortunately. Got hurt, was misused. Matt Ryan sucked. The line took a big step backwards. I think this is definitely a situation that Taylor could rebound in, benefiting from you see so many studies done on a mobile quarterback and how that improves the cutback lanes, and the defense can't overplay because they overplay Taylor, and boom, Anthony Richardson, 4.40 is zipping a bootleg right around you. It's going to be such a nightmare in that RPO that we've seen the staple of Shane Steichen's offense over there with the Eagles. That's going to be a nightmare for defenders with the Colts right now. With this beast. So I really think Jonathan Taylor rebounds. Now, I don't think we get back to the 330 carries of 2 years ago that we saw. But I do think, 280, nearly 60% of the work beyond just Anthony Richardson, taking 30% or so of the pie. I think all of that is very, very viable here for Jonathan Taylor. And just pulling up a couple of my quick notes on him. So, 18 touchdowns, 1,811 yards 2 seasons ago. I just don't think we're going to get to that level. And that's why I actually haven't gotten, despite loving the player, Jonathan Taylor, I do think the touchdowns are capped. When you have a guy like Richardson, what do you have, 20 rushing touchdowns in college? Just kind of like that Cam Newton dunk style guy. You're going to call his number plenty, just like we saw Jalen Hurts put up 13 and 10 touchdowns the past 2 seasons. It's impossible to not have that hurt Jonathan Taylor's ultimate scoring output this year, but still 11 touchdowns. You saw Miles Sanders put up double-digit touchdowns last year, and Taylor is 10,000 times the running back that he is. So I still think he's a very viable pick if he falls to round 2. I still really like Jonathan Taylor. Him and Saquon are neck and neck for me. Derrick Henry as well. That makes it tricky. Which one do you go with? Maybe the younger, best running back in the league just a year ago type of situation. I still think, 46 targets, fairly reasonable for him. But the thing is, you often do see targets drop for running backs with a mobile quarterback. They often will just run for the first themselves. Lamar Jackson's never seen a running back have more than 40 targets. Jalen Hurts' running backs last year, they were bottom in the league with like a 6% target rate. It was very, very low. So that might be a little ambitious. I might revisit this 46 targets, actually. Certainly 70 targets to total running backs. I'm not going to project that. So I'll revisit that, maybe a slight bump to all these receivers at the expense of Taylor's receiving work. But either way, you're drafting him for his rushing work. You're drafting him for the deadly RPO that they're going to create. And yes, the touchdowns do get capped by Richardson, but I think the efficiency, in fact, I'm going to bump this efficiency up to 4.9 because that's already what he's pretty much capable of. And then you open up that rushing lane. So I think that's a fair assessment there. So let me just make sure this saves. And that kind of wraps up my Colts. I'm intrigued by the quarterback, intrigued by the running back, and then everybody else, other than maybe Pierce at his price and Jelani Woods as a last-round tight end throw, I'm not drafting Pittman. I don't project enough passing game volume based on what I expect this offense to be. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.